Well, I'm interested, obviously as a SaaS company,
Mhm.
this was kind of a unique thing. You're actually the first SaaS company to transact to an employee ownership trust. What
Mhm.
was the conversation around that in the midst of all of it as well, knowing that that was going to be unique, so to speak, for your space?
Well, I wish I could say we were like, "Well, let's be thought leaders here," whatever. We're really just contrarians. Like we're totally comfortable not doing what everybody else does, not just for the sake of it, but we're willing to question and challenge the status quo. And that's just part of who Hi and I are as people. We don't mind being different. And because a SaaS company, you're supposed to hit the sell button and take your pile of money and ride off in the sunset. And there's a whole lot written about how to do that, but nobody really talks about afterwards. So, like, there's a fantastic book by Bo Burlingham that I recommend every business leader read, whether you're interested in employee ownership or not. And he interviewed a lot of people that rode off into the sunset with their pile of money. But guess what? They're still living for decades. Like, your life didn't end when you did that. And some of them are angry. Some of them are crying themselves to sleep at night on a pillow made of money. Like, how can you have that much money and be so bitter or upset whenever, and others are happy? And it's a wonderful book. It's called Finish Big by Bo Burlingham. And so, you read that and you're like, oh, maybe. So I hope that makes sense. But we weren't
Yeah.
trying to be different than other SaaS companies. We were just like, I'm not sure that is the best way to go. And we still like working. What are we going to do the rest of our lives, et cetera? So we just come to employee ownership like everybody else does. The fact that we were SaaS, maybe it's just a little bit more attention getting because the multiples we would have gotten on the high margin business that we run, would have been big. Um, Another interesting thing that we can talk about that book. There's also this other interesting concept um, that business owners, I hope, are capable of stopping to consider, but it's the concept of enough. I mean, now I'm going to get philosophical on you, but are you capable of going, you know what, that's enough money? Or is there not enough money? Man, at some point, what's the additional value of another, $1,000,
Right.
versus for me, another $1,000 versus $1,000 for someone who's trying to save up and buy their first house.
Yeah.
Like if you can understand that concept as well. But we'll set that aside. Y'all can message me if anybody's interested in that. I'll talk about it all day. So we get in and we start looking at employee ownership, which is where we really want to go. And we looked at several different models to try to figure it out. First one, staring everybody in the face, is the ESOP, employee stock
Right.
ownership plan. And I'm talking about ESOPs, not like if you worked at Ford and you're buying publicly traded shares. I'm talking about an ESOP, the ERISA plan, where you become employee owned through that. Um, a lot of tax benefits if and I'm not an expert on them. I believe if you're more than 30% owned by the employees, you're paying no taxes on that 30% or whatever percent of you are employee owned. A lot of wonderful tax benefits, but some downsides that Hi and I didn't particularly care for. It's complicated. It is governed by the Department of Labor, or I say governed, but yeah, the Department of Labor is in charge of you. You're filing ERISA laws, and there is a whole industry built around administering and helping you navigate the ESOP landscape. You have someone calculating the value of your shares every year. You have to watch how much cash you have because if employees retire with shares, the company has to buy them back. There's just things you have to do and pay attention to. There's complexity. And I personally just shy away. Maybe I'm a simple human. I just like simplicity. When it makes my head start hurting, I don't like it. I have plenty of friends that love their ESOPs, that it's wildly successful. I have others that have had poor experiences and would love to get out of them. Everybody's
Sure.
situation is different. Wasn't the most appealing to us.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Maybe we're not opposed to paying taxes. So my ESOP friends look at me and say, but you don't get the tax benefits. And I said, you know what, though? I do get something for it. I'm getting something for my money, if you will. I'm paying the
Right.
government more money, and they're not up in my business, so to say.
Yeah.
Or literally, they're not
Exactly.
up in my business. I don't have to worry about an audit from the Department of Labor, which I understand can cost you six figures and can be very disruptive to your organization trying to deal with an audit. I don't have all of these middlemen that are all every year taking their fees to go produce statements and a $10,000 valuation of the company every year or whatever you pay for that. And then you have to answer the questions for the company valuation. We don't have any of that. So I'm getting simplicity. I actually have less fees in other areas in exchange for paying the taxes. So I don't know if that's an interesting angle for anybody out there considering an ESOP. Um,
Yeah. So you were actually pretty far into the process in exploring an ESOP when the connection with Textamol and Common Trust took place. Were there certain things? I mean, you're talking about the simplicity, the trade-offs. Were there certain things that stuck out to you right away that kind of alerted you, like, oh, this is actually the path we want to go,
yeah,
employee
yeah.
ownership trust versus this thing we've been in, investing our time in?
Yeah, let me fill in a little more and then get to that one, Keel, on like when EOT comes into play because ESOP wasn't super appealing to us, but we did try something. I call it do it yourself employee
Right.
ownership, where you're the owner and we just work out private transactions to somehow give or allow employees to buy or get bonused or whatever, take the shares from the founders over time. And we really, that was appealing to us. It's not that complicated. Um, but we ran into problems. Like if you were an H-1B, you couldn't do it. If you ended up having more than 200 people, that S Corp, we would have been an S Corp doing that
Right.
becomes more difficult. And I think the biggest hurdle was that like our folks on our customer service team, you know, their taxes were going to get complicated because now all of a sudden they're getting a K-1. And like, what do
Hmm.
you mean I can't get my tax refund in January or February? And I'm not going to get my K-1. I can't file my taxes till October. Now I have to pay somebody to help me figure out my taxes. We just couldn't get around that. Like, we thought it would be like not appreciated. Their shares would not be very liquid, et cetera. So it's like just that one ended up DI. I call it do it yourself. It's just private transactions. It just ended up falling apart for us. And then we did one other thing too. We had these really bright attorneys come in, and we told them what we were trying to do. And like, can you go get creative and figure out a way to meet the criteria that we have? Keep it relatively simple, allow a little fluidity between employees, et cetera. Ultimately, they came up with something that was incredibly complicated and was just if it got challenged, it would have been really hard to explain and defend. And so we just skipped it. And we were kind of at a, man, what do we do now? So, and this is where the gist of your question comes in, Keel. We actually decided to just hold our nose and do a 20% ESOP just to get employee ownership going, just to
Right.
start transitioning this thing to the employees. And we were never going to be more than 50%, but we can do 20. And then if we want to do more, we can do more and we'll just stop because we didn't want the ESOP, a fiduciary trustee with fiduciary responsibility, to sell our beautiful SaaS company, or what we think is a beautiful SaaS company.
Right.
And that ended up, it wasn't going to work the way that we thought it was going to work. And we ended up abandoning it the week we were supposed to sign the papers. The cash flow is not going to work like we thought it was. We had some bad advisors. It's just a dark little oopsie in our history of this. And so then we were stuck. We had abandoned this 20% ESOP. We didn't know what to do. Like, man, what are we going to do? And through good fortune, we're introduced to Common Trust, and we had seen trusts before, um, but it wasn't. It was still too new, and it wasn't mature enough to have an organization like Common Trust that could bridge the gap between the legal construct of the trust and a financial model and actually going and implementing it. We sort of needed a consultant there to help us put all that together. We had talked to an attorney that frankly is a wonderful person and I love the work that they're doing, but was like, oh, well, we would go hire a financial professional. Then we'd go hire this. And it just wasn't coming together for us. And Common Trust was the consultant that was able to, no, let us help you guide this. And there was something on our first intro call with Common Trust. There was something that was so different than every other call that we had had, from do it yourself to ESOP to the attorneys, whatever. The question was, let's just start off with what you'd like to never change about your company.
Mhm.
And we were like, huh, That's a different question. And if you go back to starting this company and working for my dad, what did Hi and I really want at the end of the day? We wanted the kind of company that we want to work for. And then we wanted to just keep it that way. Like, let's just keep this company and its soul and its essence is worth preserving. And let's see what happens. And that was the first time that anyone affiliated with employee ownership had started with a question that was really about our core goal, which was let's protect this company. And Hi and I have this like, let's
Yeah,
see if we can have a software as a service company that lasts 100 years. Well, this is a really beautiful construct that's simple, and we can get into this, like, how it's rolled out, like that just lets us keep doing what we're doing, but, transition to employee ownership in a pretty simple way. And,
yeah.
uh, and we're excited that it checked all the boxes.
Yeah, that's awesome, and it's a really fascinating story to hear. And you might be surprised that there's a lot of folks out there that have taken a similar approach of beginning that ESOP process before deciding ultimately to go another route. So it's not really all
Yeah.
that uncommon in this space and the complications of all of the different avenues that you can take.
Mhm.
We've looks like we've got Derek in the room here now. He'll be joining in with us shortly. For all the people that have been filtering into the room, we're talking with Brad Herrmann from Textamal today about their transition, the past year plus of being
Mhm.
an employee owner owned company, and we're going to be talking a little bit about what it's looked like since the transaction over this past year.
Mhm.
I want to share that in the meantime, for folks that are listening and have questions, feel free to drop those into the Q&A box. We'll handle some of those as we go along, and we'll also have some dedicated time at the end for everybody to chime in with their questions. Hey, Derek.
Hey guys, nice to see you.
Hello, Derek. Good to see
Having
you.
having some very inconvenient technical troubles this morning, but it's excellent to see you
No
guys.
worries. No worries. Gail's doing great.
Yeah, we've
Awesome.
uh,
Great to see
we've
you,
been talking
Brad.
about the process leading up to Brad and Hyatt text them all choosing an employee ownership trust, and we're kind of getting the course of the conversation of the actual transaction, and then I think a key point to probably touch on next would be what it was like to roll that out to the company and the employees, some of which may have had a good idea of what this all was going to mean, and some that may have still had quite a few questions. But Derek, I'll kind of hand the hosting duties over to you at this point.
Yeah.
Awesome. Sounds great.
I'll take it over, Daryl. I'll get the first one. Like, okay, so we decided to do this EOT. How'd it go? Remarkably smoothly. I think the biggest thing that we had that helped us was we had talked about and been preparing for employee ownership for a while, and our team largely acted like employee owners already. We had a really engaged workforce. We have long tenure. We have a great culture. We are transparent and open with our books. So seeing our P&L and our expenses and our revenue was nothing new to them. So I think that set us up really well. I don't have examples to call upon, but I can only imagine if employees hadn't really seen anything and then you go, poof, we're employee owned, and you start showing them all the books and the P&L and how good it was this quarter and bad it
Right.
was that quarter or whatever. You might have people like having all kinds of freakouts. Ours really like not all that new. Like in fact, our meetings are the same as they always have been. And the actual project of getting to employee owned was really smooth. This is a big thumbs up to Common Trust, and I'm not just saying this because they asked me to be on the call. I'd say it if they weren't here. They did a fantastic job. Sandra, in particular, is a superstar. Derek knows that. She basically is like an attorney on the job while she's doing this. That may not be legal, but that's how we viewed her. Set things up so well. So when it got to attorneys, I kept waiting. And this is my favorite part about the whole thing was we're walking through the financial model and building like, okay, how do shares transition from the founding partners over to the trust? And at the end of the day, Jay on our team and I just raise your hand like, I get it. Can we just build a spreadsheet ourselves that works the way we want this thing to work? And the answer was sure. So we just went and like took the Common Trust one and made it our own. I don't know if this makes Derek cringe on the inside, whatever, but we're
No, I think
spreadsheet
it's
guys
great.
over here. We like made it the way we wanted. We had some partners that are like, yeah, go to employee ownership. We'd like to get cashed out a little bit sooner than others. So, we're trying to, we had, various interest groups from employees, tenured employees, newer employees, future employees. And then even within the four partners, sort of two approaches to this. And we built
Yeah.
a spreadsheet that just was our ideal dream scenario. And I kept waiting for someone to tell me you can't do that. Like eventually we stack it all up. We got our docs ready. We sent them over to the attorneys to review. I kept waiting. I kept waiting for like the tax person reviewing it and they're like, no, it looks great. Cool. Like it is so wonderful, like so wildly flexible. And I know that like had we done an ESOP, that would not have worked that way. And so we were able to build whatever model we want. Then you codify it in the documents, and then we just get on our way. And we roll the thing out, and then you get into explaining it to everybody how it works and going forward from there. So that's sort of like the transition. We talked about getting up to the point. What was interesting about it, what I loved, it was easy. I think we were done in under a year. I know we were done in under a year. I think it was 10
Yeah.
months from the first call to implement it. And Derek, I think y'all even have that faster now for some people, which is awesome, but
Oh yeah.
it's so smooth, so fast. So that was great. And we're excited to finally get on with it. And so I don't know, that gets us to there.
Yeah. Yeah. Really interesting. And I wanna come back to the point about like how it's been and
Mhm.
what the first like year plus has been.
Mhm.
Before we dig into that though, I just know that owners who I'm often talking to and who I think are often
Mhm.
come to these webinars are always really interested in learning about kind of the mechanics, like the financing and the way that the way that the relationships between the different parties work. Can you just
Yep.
speak like, one click more
Yep.
into the like, yeah, the deal side of the deal?
Yeah, yeah. So I'll try to do my simple. I've kind of come up as many people have asked about this, and I'm explaining it. Here's the simplest, highest level thing is we have the trust. We establish the trust. We have the company. That's text them all. And then we have
Yeah,
the founding partners. And the founding partners owned, there were for whatever reason, there were 800,000 shares. So we created the trust, and the trust, we gave it a handful of instructions. Number one, this is what our soul is. I think it was 8 statements. Like, this is who we are and what we
yeah,
want to always stay the same. Then we told the trust, your instructions are to protect this company and don't let the company violate, and the board and the company. So there's a board that runs the company now, or is in charge of the company.
yeah,
Don't let the company violate these 8 statements. And then what the partners did was I donated 1 share over to the trust. So the trust owns 1 share. And then the partners gave all voting rights to that share. Okay, so that 1 share has all the rights to vote. But the trust doesn't really care about money. It just cares, is this company violating these 8 statements? Is it violating our purpose? No, then fine. And so what the company does now is it generates cash, and we decided on a price for those other 799,999 shares. And the company, each quarter, as we generate cash, we go redeem. It's called redeeming. We redeem the shares from partners. And let's say we buy 1,000 shares this quarter. The company pays for those 1,000 shares. The founding partner gets their money, and then we tear up those shares and they go away. And now we have 798,999 we're trying to get rid of. And we're just whittling with the cash, whittling those shares down until eventually there will be only 1 share in this company, and it's owned by the trust. And the trust, by the way, we did put a little instruction in there. This is something we wanted to do. It said, you can't ever sell that share, but unless you do all of these things. And if you do, you have to give all of the proceeds to a 501(c)(3) charity.
yeah,
No way
yeah,
affiliated with anybody with the company. Okay, so I call that the run it or ruin it policy. Like, you could run this company or you could ruin this company. It's up to y'all, but it's yours. You just can't sell it. And so that's essentially the gist of it. 800,000 shares. There will eventually be one. Nobody, I tell the employees, this was part of rollout when we get into that, tell the employees, you're never going to own a share in this company. Nobody ever will. We don't ever do another valuation of this company because we decided what it was. And that's it.
yeah,
So, what the other owners might be thinking. So, bank financing, we chose to do none. We're just the founders are just taking the risk. We did put in something interesting to account for that risk and to account for some partners asking to have their shares redeemed at a more accelerated pace
yep,
instead of equally.
Right.
We're accelerating some partners out, but in the event that the company performs well, we have an earnout clause in there. And those earnout is one way that cash generated by the company will go to founding partners that doesn't redeem shares. It's just an earnout,
Right.
special dividend, it's a bonus. And that earnout will go based upon who still has unredeemed shares. Does that make sense? So there's
Right.
I and
So
I are
like the
still
longer you hold shares in the company, the more you kind of get a special bonus when it does happen.
if it does
But
happen.
if it does happen,
Yeah.
but you can also, people also have an option to do the opposite, which is accelerate their kind of buyout that's happening over time by default.
Yep, and they would be
Yeah.
entitled to a smaller portion of any
Yeah.
earnouts that might happen. So there's only two kinds of money that flow from the company to the founding partners: redeeming shares
Yep.
or special great job
Yeah.
earnouts. Companies performing well.
And why did you kind of said we decided to go with no bank financing? Just out of curiosity, like can you talk us through how you thought about whether or not that was a fit?
Uh, um, I think the truth of the matter is we're really lucky humans that have been owning this company or had owned this company for 18, 19 years, at the point we did this. Um, we didn't want to saddle the company with I don't want to say saddle them with debt, but have mandatory payments.
Mhm.
And
Right,
so we
right.
structured it in a way that as cash is available, we redeem shares. And if there's not much cash available, joke's on us, the founders. If there is cash available and if we're doing really well, we get this earnout. Like, congrats to us and the employees. We're all benefiting. So just total alignment of interest. Uh,
Yeah,
I think we're still fully aligned. We still believe in this company.
yeah,
And I don't know, Derek
yeah.
didn't want to, we can get into it, but as it turns out, our largest client, like within 6 months of doing this transaction, our largest client dropped their usage with us by 80%.
Wow.
So some of those if we had had a larger note, it would have been more difficult.
Yeah,
Would have
yeah,
put stress on the company. And I haven't done the math. I don't know what it would look like because we didn't do that.
yeah.
Because you never know what's going to happen.
Totally. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I know that you guys are like um very adaptable, and the structure is meant to like reflect that, like that you guys
Yeah,
have
yeah.
this.
So by not having bank debt, we're totally flexible. We
Yeah,
value simplicity and flexibility. And that's
yeah,
one of the
yeah.
things I love about this model. What's not flexible are those purpose statements that the trust, those are
Right,
not
right,
flexible.
right, right. Yeah,
But
yeah,
the model for how we distribute, what percentage of cash we generate goes to employees, what percentage and how does it go to employees, and what percentage of it goes to partners. We can modify that if we need to, as long as the partners are all thumbs up. We love that flexibility, and we love the flexibility of we didn't generate a whole lot of cash this quarter, or we want to go invest in a new building, or
yeah,
buy a company. We could put off payments to those partners if we needed to go make an investment, for example. We have like ultimate flexibility. So that, yeah,
yeah,
you're right.
yeah. I love that. Okay, so
Hey, Derek,
shifting.
I'll point out too that if I was a business that we'd run for 18 years and we didn't spin off a lot of cash
Yeah,
along the way,
yeah,
yeah, like take some money. You mean like you're like
totally.
capitalism? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
sure, take some bank debt. Get at least this much. I'm gonna at least get if the company folds tomorrow. Like, I mean, but the
yeah,
employees still have to generate cash to pay it off. Whether
yeah.
they're paying the bank or you. So
Yeah, totally. And I think that's totally that's reasonable and something that a lot of people do and are looking at. And like you said, it just depends on your circumstance and
yeah,
where the company is at and where you're at.
yeah,
Okay, so shifting from kind of that more technical stuff to, I guess, higher level again. Like you guys have been doing this for a while now. You've
yep,
been operating as an employee-owned company. You've done, a whole bunch of different things in that space, like communicating with employees, having some events. We did the first Steward Circle conference for employee ownership trust at the Textamall office.
yeah.
But I would love to just hear, how's it going? Like, especially in the day to day, like, what are you noticing is different? What are you noticing is not different? Anything that has been surprising? Anything that has been, yeah, I mean, we can just start open-ended
Yeah.
and I can kind of
Yeah.
click
You
in.
got it. So first, this is actually more on the technical side. This is how beautiful it is. We administer the entire thing on two spreadsheets. Just my COO and I, like I'm kind of
I
financial and
love
spreadsheet
that.
oriented guy. We administer the whole thing on two spreadsheets. The most complicated thing we did was we wanted a beautiful statement to hand to the employees. And like we had to make a statement to like mail merge to the like that's like the most complicated thing was a mail merge. Okay. So beautifully simple, and so that's like I'm thrilled to report that like it really is like that simple. And it has remained and held that case. I think the hardest thing in the beginning with the transition was explaining it to the employees
Hmm.
because just like we're a SaaS company and we're supposed to go sell for a pile of money to private equity, and didn't do that, everybody, employees, especially in our case, we have software engineers, it's a technology company. They're like, but I'm supposed to get shares, and then how do I sell those shares for more money?
Right. There's like a
And
playbook for, being an employee that gets a exit with the company,
yeah,
potentially in the tech startup
that's
space.
right. So that was, and all of this is probably one of the more difficult things to explain. Because when you say you're not going to own a share and nobody's ever going to own a share, and we're whittling down 800,000 to one, so how do you make money? Well, I'll just explain to everybody else like I explain it to the employees because I feel like this helped them like go, okay, I understand. This company will generate cash. Eventually, the founding partners are going to be paid off. Like we bought their shares back. This company generates cash. And the way I say it is the trust doesn't want money. It doesn't care about money. There's no reason to send a single dollar up to the trust. It's just doing its job, making sure the soul of this company stays the same. So what do we do with that money? We give it to y'all in the form of profit share. And they're like, okay, so yeah, so we generate cash, we give out the cash that we don't need, the excess cash or distributable cash or whatever you want to call it, free cash, make up whatever word you want. I just
Yeah.
call it cash that we don't need. We distribute. And how do you get that, uh, Mr. or Miss Employee? Well, you could look at it like your shares or your piece of that money that we decide to give out is based on your salary and your tenure. So the longer you've been here and the more you get paid, you get a bigger piece of the money that we distribute. So if you want to make more money being an employee owner, you kind of have two ways to do that, or three ways. One, be here longer. Two, do a great job and get promoted and get raises and those kind of things. And three, and the most important, is help this company make more money. Like it's so like of all the other forms of employee ownership, that is, and I said it
Right.
yesterday as we
Right.
were going
Right.
over the first quarter. I was like, y'all, we were reminding everybody how this works and how we came to their profit share number for the first quarter. And I said, just as a reminder, the most important thing, how do I help this company be more successful? How do I help revenue go up? How do I keep expenses down? What's the best project to work on? All of us, and I think this is the single most beautiful thing about employee ownership, every single person in every single meeting, every single project, every single decision. Really, we should have one overarching thing in our company that is what is the best decision for this company now and in the future? And what is the best? And that isn't always easy, even we have that. But we should not
Yeah.
be playing
Definitely easier said
political.
than done.
Yeah, we should not be playing like, do I do something that takes longer and is better for the future, or do I just get it done right now the fast way? Like
Right.
it's as old as time. But what we should not have is we can hire one more person and have marketing or engineering arguing over whether they should get the person or not. No,
Hmm.
if we have the money to hire one more person, what will benefit this company the most? That is the question we should be asking. And
Yeah.
that is the beauty of if you're doing this well of what should happen. And now my whole team knows like, yeah, like expenses matter, revenue matters. How do I help that? How do I keep clients for a really long time? Um,
Yeah.
all of that. That's a lot of talking, but man, that was it. And then I'll give you one other interesting thing. I had somebody along the way as we're trying to explain this to people. Look, you got to send some money to the founding partners, and then there's some that goes to employees, and this is how we distribute it.
Yeah.
Um, I had someone early on in this process say, really fair question. But if we don't ever own shares, are we really employee owned? And I thought that was a fair question, you know?
Totally. Yeah.
And, the answer to that is that ultimately the employees are entitled to 100% of the profits that come out of this company. Now, you gotta like pay off the founders, but it's all the profits are ultimately yours. You want to triple the company, you want to 10x the size of this company, it is all yours. And what we did to help answer that question, or just to make sure it wasn't just Brad up there, blowing smoke, we went to the certified employee-owned company. There's a company that they've made this their business.
Yeah.
We sent them our documents, all of our, trust documents, whatever, and they came back like a week later and were like, absolutely, you are 100% employee owned. And I think that helped also just
Oh,
confirm what we
interesting.
were telling them. We put
Yeah.
it on the website. Ultimately, I think our marketing team decided we weren't getting a whole lot out of what we were paying for that, but we did that first year for sure, just to let our team know. No, it is employee owned. It's just different form. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was a lot of talking. I hope that was interesting to
No, I
people.
think that was great. I
Um,
mean, I'm curious if there were any other aha moments with regard to employee ownership
yeah,
from the team side, because I
yeah.
know that we talked to Jeremy from Codeweavers a couple weeks ago, and he pointed to, well, the first profit sharing check was, the moment where my employees stopped looking at me like, is this real? Like, kind of eyes narrowed, like, is this real? We've been talking about this for a long time. But that is an obvious one, obviously, for them. But
Yeah, and
yeah, I'm curious
Derek,
what
that absolutely was the case for us.
I'm sure.
Yes, like we're explaining all of this. And then so we launched October 1st, right at the start of a new quarter. And come January, we did our first profit share check. Okay, everybody, look, you've been looking at this for years now. Here's the revenue. Here's our expenses. Here's the cash situation.
Yeah,
Here's, what we put aside for rainy day. We call it the cash waterfall.
right.
Here's what we put aside for rainy day, and here's what goes in the bucket. And then this much went over to redeem shares, and then this much went to employee profit share. And here's your checks. And here's your pretty statement that we did a mail merge on.
Yeah,
Here's
yeah,
a pretty statement. And we physically hand the statements to everybody. And that first time we actually physically handed a check. We don't do that anymore, but we
yeah,
physically hand them a statement. And it was like, oh, yeah, let's go. And then this is like where my team was telling me, look, the people in this company cared. Like they
yeah.
were acting, but it went like if you're a fan of the old, went from 10, but this one goes to 11. Like
Okay.
it went one notch further. It gives hall passes for them to go stick their nose in other teams and other.
Yeah,
So what
yeah.
do you, and like I love as an employee owner. Why did y'all decide to do that? Like it lets you stick your nose into
I
other people.
love that. Did you have to do
Yeah.
anything I mean, I'm sure you did many things, but like, what do you think really moved the needle in terms of helping people own that identity? Because I actually think you're telling that story in this, in a way, very like offhanded way. Oh yeah, but it's a really special thing. Like that's a very powerful relationship for the employee to kind of self-identify as an employee owner to externals. So they
Mhm.
must feel very, very confident. Like, what are you doing to create that sense? And yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is sound like transparency, sense of open. But we are super open about like what's happening and like
yeah,
we generated, whatever, 100 grand, and this much is going to High and Brad and Dick and Stefan, the four part, like it's going over there, y'all. Like part of the deal. But look what's here. And I remember we have these like four defined tiers of performance.
mm,
And one of them was like I just said this is Boomtown, y'all, and it stuck. Like, dude, if we are crushing it, we get to that fourth level performance, and like it's kind of stuck. As it turns out, we're kind
yeah,
of far from that right now. But like, I want to get to Boomtown because they can do the math now, and they can
yeah,
be like,
yeah,
oh my gosh, that would be a massive amount of cash, like going to employees, whatever. Like, we can do this, whether we get to Boomtown fast or we get to there in
yeah.
5 years. This is worth doing. Like, we can really do this. And the other one I think that really stuck with him was just like, if y'all want to double the size of this company, like, and double the profits, triple the profits, like, I'm thumbs up. Let me know how we can help do that. Like,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
really cool. Like, you guys can generate a lot of wealth, and they see it. It's just math and the game that we're playing, the game of business, and it is not
Yeah.
easy. We have competitors that could care less that we're employee owned. Like
Right,
we are
right, right.
still in a very competitive industry. Like we are battling out there like any other business. It's not all like, sunshine and rainbows, man. Like
Yeah.
we got it. Like you got to bring it, But if we do and we make good decisions and we do these things, they can see the path, Derek. So I don't
Mm,
know, handing checks, being transparent about the formula and letting them see how we generated cash. That's great.
yeah.
Or feel the pain of we didn't generate cash and it's a zero.
Right.
Like, oh, that was way better when we got a check.
Right, 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 right.
So
Yeah.
all the things.
Well, and it's really interesting how you, it seems like it's, from what I'm hearing, it seems like you've been really successful at also depersonalizing that process. Like it is not about, you know, employee ownership is not about Brad and High just deciding to give bonuses. It's like this is the game of business, pun not intended. And like if we hit these numbers, we get these things. And the
Yeah.
people have really internalized that.
Yeah.
I think
And
that's something a lot of owners are worried about. Is like, well, are they really gonna get it? Like, is it really gonna make sense?
now,
Uh,
I have 43 people, I think, right now on our
yeah,
team, and we're all in Frisco. Today's a work from home day, but we're in office 3 days a week. So
yeah,
I have two secret weapons. One, we're in office, which means every Wednesday we have a scoreboard meeting where we put metrics and data and we have accountability to each other. Like
yeah,
that is built in, and we can stand and talk to each other face to face once a week. So
yeah,
that in terms of communicating, and then they can come up to me afterwards and ask questions and that kind of stuff, which
yeah,
happened. That happened yesterday when we were reminding them how the cash waterfall works. Boom, question right immediately afterwards. The second secret weapon that I had is Jay. He's our COO. He'll eventually take my job, which is a good thing.
yeah.
And he represented the employees as we went through this whole project he saw the ESOP, he saw the whatever, he saw the very candid conversations about company valuation and how do we find right between founding partners and profit share? How do we do right by everybody? And that is like ultimately the hardest thing is what is right?
Mm,
Like you have to kind of figure that out. Like, how do we balance if we have cash, if we're doing well, if we're doing poorly, what's the right thing? And he's seen all those deliberations and he's familiar with all of that. And they're very comfortable going to him and asking questions. And then so this is one of those where, if you're going to go through this transition, if you can have a trusted person there that is financially savvy, able to follow along with all of this, that also represents employees and can see this. We got
mm.
a ton of benefit from that, and I'm grateful for that role that Jay played. And especially sometimes as an owner, you are trying to talk and think through these things. Um,
Interesting.
that was a really, really good thing. And then he can say things sometimes that we can't. Like he stood up there one time and he's like, just to be clear, we are not buying this company from the founders. They are giving it away slowly. Like he can say that. Like I might sound like an ass if I say it, but he says it. He can get away with saying that. And he's right. He's like, we are taking no employee is taking any risk whatsoever with this. It's all on the founders. They're the ones that are not taking the pile of money right away. They're taking a pile of what they hope is future money that we haven't yet, that isn't there yet. So the
Sure.
risk is on them, and he can say that in a different way than we can. And so,
Right.
these are my
And
two
that's
secret
and that's
weapons
and,
in
and that's
personalization.
obviously a choice for you guys. But to your point, having somebody who can speak to, the broad base of employees and the staff, not from the perspective of an owner trying to set up a deal, but from the perspective of, being a part of that group. I think that's
Yeah.
really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm grateful for him because he has the no hesitation pushing back or challenging or whatever,
Right.
even though he doesn't. In some cases, essentially, he's going, I don't have any cards to play here. I'm just going to challenge that maybe that's not right or
Yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah.
which is great. It takes a special person to be able to do all of that. Like
Yeah.
up process, sort of stand up and represent employees, but also understand. So
Yeah, yeah, totally. Well, I want to make sure that we hit these questions. We actually have
Yep.
a bunch of questions from
Great.
folks. So we'll switch gears now and we'll go into that and see where we get to.
Yeah.
I'll just start at the top. So it looks like Jean Moncrief
Hi,
is
Jean.
asking, I'm keen to understand how disruptive the whole process was for the business. Did the team ever feel fatigued or skeptical? Like, quote, here we go again, another share scheme.
Well,
Yeah. Uh,
that's a great question. When we abandoned the ESOP a
yeah.
week before we were going to do it, which is part of our, early
It's a
story,
bold decision. Yeah.
I think I felt worse than anybody else.
Hmm.
I didn't want to be a hypocrite. I didn't want to be like a big tease. I don't know. I felt really bad that we couldn't figure this out. Um, so I think it probably wore on me more than anybody else. Well, I had some people were over it, others were, I mean, it's fair if they rolled their eyes or whatever, but I didn't get that impression from the team. And then when we were doing the transaction, we were updating them that we're moving. It's going to take a while. There's, like it's just going to take a little while. It's progressing. We gave him updates. I didn't feel any fatigue. And then the other thing too was we didn't have to change anything about how we work day to day, which was the beautiful, beautiful aspect of it.
Yeah.
Oh, we should talk about this, Jean. We had people ask like we just recently moved in a new office and we spent a lot of money building it out. It's really cool. Like we did the steward circle there. Like it's really beautiful office. Someone raised their hand. Would we have had a say in how much money we spent, like on this office building it out? And our answer was no. No, that's like you have to have an office. We needed room. That's the board's job to like run the
Yeah.
company and figure out should we buy get how much square footage, should we move, should we expand, whatever. No, that's like just operating a company. That's not like an existential threat. No. And
Right.
so we were blunt a few times
Hmm.
on no, no. That's still board leadership team. Like, no, you're not gonna weigh in on that. Like, and so that
Yeah.
helped too. But no, no, John, we didn't feel anything from the team, any fatigue or, it was pretty really smooth, like remarkably smooth and simple.
Yeah. Yeah. You obviously already have a lot of transparency and communication, stuff like that before, we ever met. So I think that also helps, right? Because you're not trying to teach somebody, all the basics of the business's financials while also having to try to teach them about employee ownership, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Um, okay, I'll keep going here. I'm going to skip Jean's other question just so that other people can ask. So for a small company, this is Justin Terry with this company of 10 or less employees. How do you handle the process of some employees not seeking long-term employment with one company and job hopping? Can imagine it's difficult to be employee owned if you have trouble keeping employees long term.
Yeah, one of the beautiful beauties of what we do is that formula. It's salary and tenure, and I think you have to be here one quarter. Don't hold me to this, but I think you have to be here a full quarter before you start benefiting. And our clients stay with us a really long time. So as opposed to if we were a consulting firm, the people that are here that quarter are doing the work to generate the revenue that quarter. We're a little different in that we stack up employee or stack up clients over time, which is why we have the tenure basis in ours. So if folks want to come and go, that's fine. They're not going to take a big share of the profits from the people that have been here for a while. It's part of our deal. I ultimately point back to culture. I think the bar is not that high in the United States right now for actually giving a shit, excuse my language, actually truly, genuinely caring about your employees and creating something that is different where they want to stay. Maybe you're in a high turnover industry, maybe you're a restaurant and you have high turnover, but if you can change your turnover from 100% a year down to 40% a year, you are knocking the socks off your competition. And this is one way you can reward those people. Put a little tenure component. I mean, you can build the formula for how you distribute profit share however you want. So I don't know. Culture, can you use this profit share to get people to
Yeah.
care? But if you're trying to use money as the only way to get people to care, man, that makes me kind of cringe a little bit. Like care about them as people and try to set something up that lets you stand out and then
Right.
add profit share. And now you're rolling. We have really long tenure at our company.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. I love that. Okay, I'm going to jump around here a little bit. So, Jill asks, Brad, are the founding partners still in the process of cash out? Is there a concrete time frame for cash out, and do the partners plan to remain on as employees or advisors after the complete transfer? So this is about like
Yeah.
both the time of the cash out, but also like your guys' roles and how you conceive that over a long period of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, I think hopefully we answered some of this, Jill, as we went along the way. But two of us have been running the company day to day for, I don't know, decade or more. The other two are my dad is retired and getting pretty old. And our other partner is we call him if we need him, but onto other things, semi-retired. I don't know how you define it, but he helps us when we need help. Um, but yeah, we joke like our performance hasn't been great. About 6 months after we started this thing, our largest account, our largest client, dropped their usage with us by 80%. And that obviously threw our numbers off. And we joke like, yep, the partners are on a 20-year payout. So no, we have total flexibility and that's okay. It's just one more. I think you could say it's just a generous way we set up the deal to be generous to the company so that it can flex, but
Yeah.
also to serve our goal of having a 100-year company. Well, one way to do that is to let the company not get stuck in a bind having to make cash payments and churn through its rainy day fund. So I hope that helps. But yeah, and if we like crush it the next 3 years, we might get paid out in 5 years.
Right. Yeah. 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 Um, so another question here is around I'm curious to see where you take this. We don't have to do it as like a technical Q&A, but someone's
Mhm.
asking about the tax benefits of the ESOP versus the EOT. Um, I'm curious if you can answer that question maybe a bit more generally than it's asked to talk about like how do you how do you think about like the structure and how did you get comfortable with the EOT versus the ESOP given that it's just a very different tax treatment and structure.
Yeah, and if you're a lower margin business, maybe that tax is a really big deal to you. The
Right.
tax things in terms of your cash flow. Um, I don't know. Everybody's situation is different, but for us, technically, all the share redemptions are going to be long-term capital gains. The earnouts, we haven't even had any yet. I don't remember. Those are getting taxed out. Hopefully, they're also long-term capital gains, and all the profit share goes to employees as compensation. And Jay, I mentioned Jay earlier along the way representing employees, and he joked one time and he said, Brad, but you're an S Corp and you're an active participant in the S Corp. Aren't you paying full taxes on every dollar you've gotten for the last 18 years out of this company? And I said, you're right. I have been paying full, active earned income tax on that. And he said, how's that working out for you? And I'm like, pretty nicely. And he goes, if you want to give me 100 grand right now, I'm more than happy to pay taxes. So there's kind of a real world comment like that came from, you want to give me 100 grand, I'll pay taxes on it.
Right, right,
So,
right.
but I also tried to mention earlier that we do get something for it. This remarkable simplicity,
Hmm.
two spreadsheets internally managed. I don't have to take meetings with people trying to do an annual valuation. I don't
Right.
people going, that's really complicated, Brett. And because I hate this, that's really complicated. That's what you pay us for. Something about that makes me cringe. And I hate like when somebody says that to me, I run away as fast as I can. But that's frankly how some of the ESOP stuff works. It's complicated ERISA laws. Like, so I do get something for us all
Yeah.
paying taxes. We get something. We get simplicity. We print the statement. How much cash do we have? What's the situation? Make a decision, print the statements out, and make the deposits to the employees, make the deposits to founders, and we're on our way. Like I don't have
Yeah.
this. And let me tell you, you have the third parties, and you have just the work of doing it, like to giving the third parties the information that they need to do their job. We don't have any of that. So it's
Right.
beautifully simple. And that does matter because we move on to other more productive activities. So
Right.
there you
You can
go.
focus
And I
on
would,
growing the business.
do I believe that EOTs um, uh, uh, should receive a tax benefit for what we're doing? Do I believe, like in its purest form, should we get some sort of benefit for doing this? Yeah,
Mm.
I do, because I didn't hit the easy button and take any one of these private equity companies that still email me every single day and hit the easy button and take a pile of money. We didn't do that. So like, do I believe in the principle? Yeah. But I'm also terrified of the government going, we're going to give you a tax break, but now we're going to make you have to do all these forms and fill all this stuff out.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I don't really know that I want that. So
Right.
there's candid talk.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, I think it's real. We will typically end a couple minutes early to give people a little bit of time to get their next meetings. But I would just say, as a final thing, what advice would you give? There's 42-ish people who have been here listening to you. Presumably, most of those are business owners who are thinking about maybe, investigating employee ownership. What's your advice for folks, just more generally when they're thinking about this?
It's rewarding. It's meaningful. I go to work going, I know that I get paid out, but I really want to help you all build wealth. I want to have, like, it's just so inspiring. It gives me purpose that I'm not sure I would have if I had a pile of money and retired.
Hmm.
It really gives purpose, and you can have a really genuine, incredible impact on people's lives. And that is worth pursuing. And I sleep really well at night, like really well. So I don't know. I'm finding it incredibly rewarding, and I hope it works out. We're only 18 months in, or whatever it is. I I hope it works out in the long run. But if nothing else, I might say here lies Brad Herrmann. He tried to do something really cool. That was like doing the right thing, and that was cool. Like I don't know. I feel like
I love
something
that.
like that, Derek. Something in that line.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, I really we'll wrap up here, but I'll just say partially as a conclusion, partially as a response to what you just said, like I think that's really powerful, and you guys have really like gone the distance on a bunch of turning talk into action along these lines, and yeah, just really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us, talk about what it's meant to you, get into the technical weeds here and there, um, and hopefully, we can do this again sometime.
You got it. And if anybody out there has more questions or wants to dig on this, I don't know if you can tell I'm pretty passionate about it. Happy to help. Reach out to me on LinkedIn or whatever. I'll be happy to help.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Brad. Thank you everybody for joining.